Hello, everyone, and welcome to Community. I am so excited because I'm in person today. I love being in person. I'm in Dallas, and it's so hot. It's so
I apologize, but
you can't control it. Yeah. And I'm actually so excited because I have a new person in my world here. But Jordan, you are somebody who I've known about for so long because of Mary Angelica and some mutual connections of ours. And you've been in the online space. I feel like you're like a bit of an OG. Would you call yourself an OG?
Yeah. I mean, I entered the space as an employee of an 8-figure entrepreneur. She's no longer in the space back in 2014.
Wow.
And then I went out on my own in 2016. So, yeah. Wow.
Well, Jordan, welcome to the show. I'm so excited because you have such an amazing community. And I always think it's so incredible when there's entrepreneurs and coaches who, like, outside of, when someone's like, oh, how do you like that person? Like, how do you like that program? Like, is it worth it? And people rave about you. So it's going to be so great. You are a systems expert. I want to hear everything about how you got started in this, because systems are kind of my ooh. So hopefully you're watching this on YouTube, guys. But I'm curious for you, tell me how you got started in this and how you have built kind of your little empire.
Yeah. So like I said, I worked for an 8-figure entrepreneur in the space. They were in masterminds with the Amy Porterfields, with the James Wedmores, with a lot of those bigger names we would know, Stu McLaren. Cool. So I entered this space very interestingly because I had a kind of backseat behind the scenes of just the OGs, right? People even before me. And so I worked as head of content. So kind of think someone's songwriter to their Beyonce.
Yeah.
So I would help create the courses, help create the webinar scripts and all of that sort of stuff. And it was the best job ever. And about, again, 1 year and 3 quarters, I just got a nudge. For me, it's God. Others, it might be universe or whatever. But for me, it was God. And he was just like, time to go. And I'm like, interesting.
Where?
Right. I didn't even have an Instagram, I think, at that point. So I was like, what is happening? But I always know when you get that nudge, it may seem super illogical, not smart, all of those things. But I actually was like, you know what? Okay. And I gave 6 weeks notice because we were about to go into a launch. And in those 6 weeks we launched, but then I also decided, okay, if I'm going to go on my own, what's the quickest way to get clients? And to me, that was connections. So I had gone to events before and met people and kind of, I don't want to say built up the, I guess, opportunity for asks, but kind of, right? Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, if you're going to ask, this is the time because I'm about to go off a cliff. And I asked a few people, do you know anyone who needs some systems work? Also, content stuff, because that's what I had done previously. And thankfully I had some really great friends who were like, yep, I know people. And so went off on my own. And so in 6 weeks, I was able to be making $12,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue.
Wow.
From that day on, which is wild. I was so ready to live in a dentist's basement and eat ramen, which is unfortunate because I have celiac disease, so that would not have worked out. But I was from that point on and being on the community podcast, connections and community are everything. And if you feel like you can't ask, that's a you problem. That's not an other people problem.
Yes.
Because I found people love to help. I know I love to help. Yeah. It feels really good to have somebody ask and say, hey, do you know somebody that does this? Or, hey, do you know a resource that's like that? And then for you to be like, yeah, I do actually. And here's the person or here's the resource. So it's something that continuously, it's such a loop in my story.
I love it.
But that's how I started was through a very, very small community, not even an audience, friends who I met at events, right? So I was fortunate in that sense. 5 months later, I burned it all down, but
Okay, we'll get there. Okay, so I love that story in so many ways, but one of the things that resonates with me the most is that reciprocity you've built with people.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that people really take for granted is that, you meet people and you just pour into them. That's how our business got started, where I would just give people social media advice all the time. And I'd be like, try this, do this. I don't know. I don't know. And then people would be like, oh, can I pay you for this? And I'd be like, no, I don't want to do that for you. But I love this for you to do yourself. And then I was finding oh my God, I just need to start an agency. And we just started doing that. And it's been great since. But it was so much reciprocity, so much giving, and we got so much like value from that.
Yes.
And so it sounds like you really did the same thing. A lot of like built up a lot of reciprocity with people for when it was your time to ask, people were probably bending over backwards.
Totally. Yeah. And it wasn't even a big deal. And I think especially as women, we have a really hard time with asking because we think it's a burden. We think it comes across a certain way. And to me, if you're just a genuine person and again, you've built that rapport, then, you know, again, ask yourself, like when your friends ask you for help, how do you feel?
Yeah.
Right. And so to not allow somebody else to give you that opportunity or that joy is like taking an opportunity away from somebody else. You know, it only feels icky to ask if you've never had a conversation with the person and clearly you don't even follow them on Instagram or follow them on LinkedIn or wherever they're at. It's very obvious then what the ask is about versus like we've had rapport, we've met, we've connected in the DMs, whatever the case is.
Yeah. I don't know if you find this because you and I were talking about this actually in the DMs today about live events. How you and I were both like, oh God, like right before them, they're so stressful that when you're on stage, you're like, this is my highest calling. Like, yeah, like I'm always like God's closest to me on this stage. Like, it's like, that's always how I feel. But then like before it, I'm like, never again. But I don't know if you find this with live events, but I feel like when I put out the speaker applications for live events, like that's when the people come out of the woodwork and they're like, girl, I'm in your DMs because like I've been watching you, and I'm like, but not following.
Right. You literally are not even following me.
How did you watch? I'm curious.
Yeah, that's how the algorithm works. Like, yeah, it is interesting. It's the whole speaker application thing in general is interesting to me because I would only put mine out for like a week or something, and people think I have a bigger audience than I do, which is funny and a whole nother topic. But yeah. I get like 150 applications in like a week, and it's wild. And I recently applied to a speaking opportunity that she has like multiples bigger audience than I do. Yeah. And only 30 people applied in a week. And so I was like, that's interesting. But what I think it is a bit of the approachability, but also if you saw her lineup, it's like all 8-figure entrepreneurs, which I am not. And so if you have any sort of imposter syndrome or feel intimidated, then of course you're not going to apply. Yes. But the opportunity was still there. So I think that it's, again, something that I want people to get better at is connecting with people before you even need the ask. Like get used to connecting with people and, you know, just, again, building rapport before you need something from them. Because that's going to go so much further and you're going to actually be connected to that person and the results will speak for themselves.
100%. Yeah, and I found it too, even when my events have come up and stuff where, like, I remember we ran our first big event. I had so many people. I'm like a sharer for everyone. Like, I'm always like, oh, like, what's going on? You want me to share that? I know you're the same. I saw today you did a big round of all these events. Like, yeah, so it's like I'm a huge believer in that. And my first event didn't sell out, and people rallied for us, like, and they were like posting in their stories, and I was like, oh, and then our second event sold out like in 10 days. It was like so quickly, which was also such a gift. But I don't forget that like so much of that was built on like my audience of people who were invested, but I'm the first to share their webinars. I'm the first to show up for them, right? So I think that's such a great message. And so for you, as you've been building, like just bringing you back a bit, like, so you're in the doing for other people. You're like a service provider. Yes. How did you make this like shift into more coaching, educating? Yeah. Because that's what I know of you and like how you help people build amazing systems.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, like I said, about 5 months into my business, I was like, this is for the birds. And it was mainly because I was working with all 7-figure-ish entrepreneurs and they all launched in the same month, September 2016. I will never forget it. I call it Launchmageddon, and it was a trek. And after that, I was like, there's no way I could do this again, right? Because your clients are going to have their own schedules and it's not always going to align, right, perfectly, where it's like, you're launching in September and you in October and you in November. No. Like, especially September, it's a big launch month in general in online business. And so I let go of 2 clients right away, made space. It's like, okay, what else can I do? And I stumbled upon somebody who did sales VIP days. I was like, that's interesting. So I hired her. And I was like, so, yes, I do want your help with sales, but like also what's this VIP day thing? She's like, oh, you just work with somebody like we're doing for a day and, you charge a high amount because it's a shorter container. And I was like, I'm about this. Yeah. I am here for all of what you're saying right now. And so I just was like, I'm going to make it work. Like, I was very committed versus just like, oh, I'll try something. And if it doesn't work out, we'll get comfortable over here. Like, I'm kind of an all-in kind of person. I don't like do things half-ish. So when I made that decision about VIP days, my first, I think 3 months, I got a few VIP days. And then the 4th month, I got 0 new VIP days. And I was like, oh gosh.
But does it always feel, because I get like this, that you're never going to get another one?
Right.
Like even now, like
right.
I won't make a sale for a month and I'm like, so this was a great run. I had a good time. I had a good time.
Yeah. I feel the exact same way. And so, but during that month, I just was like, something just told me to just hang tight for a second. Like, don't just start finicking, right? Which people generally panic. And so then that next month I got a couple, and next month. And so then from that on, that point on, I had continued to sell VIP days, which people always think, oh, you can't have a sustainable business with VIP days because it's not recurring. But you just, for me anyway, you sell and continue to sell VIP days for the next months. And so I did that for a couple years and set up people's systems in a day. And I would work about 4 days a month with clients. And so then the rest of the months I would market or go to events or hang out, I guess. And people were like, what are you doing? Like, you seem like you've got stuff happening, but like also you seem like you're enjoying your life. And I was like, yeah, pretty much. And so everyone's like, well, I want to learn about VIP days. So what was that? March 2020, which we all know that month. I decided, okay, I'm going to commit to doing Done in a Day, which was my VIP Day group program. And I launched the same weekend that everybody went home. So I was like, again, cool, like great.
Great timing for everybody.
Right, this is great. But got my first 17 people in. And again, from that point on, for the next 2.5 years, it was 500 students.
Wow.
In 2.5 years. Again, I never would have imagined that, like, in the moment. But it, again, it's interesting what happens when you truly commit and focus. Like, I did not get distracted by anything. I was like, all roads lead to Done in a Day. That's what I told my team. That's what I told myself. And we were able to have a really amazing program with amazing students and clients. And then ultimately there was a pivot that had to be made. But I think that so often we think, okay, we need to be able to show everything that we're good at. And I realized that, okay, I'm just going to show this one aspect of VIP Day positioning. And that's just really what worked for me. I think you can, have success so many different ways. Yeah. But for me and how I am wired, I needed that focus time and I needed to really hunker down. And it was a wild ride. It was awesome.
So in this program, like, what was the transformation for these people?
So the main transformation was to sell your first VIP day.
Okay.
So most people had an ongoing service or even had a coaching container, and they wanted to be able to pull something out of that or shrink their longer term stuff into a single day.
Right.
And oddly enough, that's what corporate people call process improvement.
Yeah.
Which is systems. So while it's like, a shinier, positioning of VIP days, I still got to do what I do well, which is improve the system, right? Yeah. Improve the process.
So what does that look like for you? Like, you're building this little, empire of teaching people how to build VIP days, and then you need to make a shift from that.
Yeah, that was a wild shift.
Yeah.
It came very abruptly in the sense of it was kind of the endish of 2022. We had just gotten off a launch of our Done in a Day virtual conference, and I actually had to let go of a coach because of some just things that were not value driven. And so at that point, I either had to decide, okay, I'm going to hire more coaches, because I had been through 9 coaches in 2.5 years. And that's from a variety of things, whether people came for a couple months and just wanted the W-2 to get a house and then they bounced, or people trying to take over my program by opening a Slack channel and trying to run my program without me. I have so many stories, but
could you imagine?
Yeah. So at that point, I had trained 9 people in my process of VIPs, which I take really seriously. We have a rubric, like we have a training program for my coaches, because I'm not just here to bring somebody in randomly and tell people what to do with their businesses. And October 2022, it was like, okay, I either need to hire more coaches or I'm done. And I did not want to hire more coaches.
Yeah.
So at that point, it was like, well, I'm done. So that was our last launch. I didn't even do like a last chance get in. It felt really complete to me. It was very clear. And so we ran it until March of 2023. And then came some different things that I tried to make work, but just weren't quite gelling. And so then ultimately at that point it was 9 team members, but about end of 2022, I had about 12 team members. And by a year later, I had 0 team members. It was just
wow.
me. Yeah.
So now you're a solopreneur.
I am.
Okay, so you know what? I have so many things to say about this. Yes. This is something I was talking about with a group of girls yesterday. I was on this trip at St. Jude's, and we were talking about, like, you know, when you're at a children's hospital for cancer, like you have a lot of thoughts about life, right? Like you're just like, why are we doing any of these things? None of these things matter.
None of these things
I'm like so stressed about Slack, and then I'm like, oh my gosh,
Right.
And so, but we were talking about this idea of revenue and about how as you scale your business, it's more team, more revenue, 8 figures, 9 figures. You want to
keep climbing.
Yeah. And there's some people who I was like in there with who were like, I would love that to stop. I don't want to make 7 figures because I don't want the responsibility that comes with 7 figures.
Yes.
They're like, I'm even finding out the Louis Vuittons that don't come with the 7 figures. Like, we're good for the trade. But it's this, like, not enoughness where, like, I have a friend who's a solopreneur who makes $500K, and I'm like, the goals.
Right. That's the win.
Right? So it's just interesting that you kind of did it. You scaled up. You have this team. You did the damn thing. And then you're kind of like, not this damn thing.
Yeah. Like, it's done. And I think that what I hope people hear is, number one, if you want to go to 7 figures, have at it. And my reasoning for going there was actually to be able to purchase my dream home for my husband, me, and my bonus son, Colin. And so I had to show a certain amount of revenue and a certain amount of salary for myself in order to do that by myself. And so again, I was focused on that. And I ended up purchasing our dream home December of 2021.
Congrats.
Thank you. And so then at that point, I don't want to say it wasn't a fluke, but again, I think that the fact that a year later I was complete actually makes sense, because once I had done the thing I wanted to do, it's like, well, why keep climbing? Why keep doing all this stuff? And team is stressful. I loved my team. I actually had really great team members and a really great experience, a couple interesting eggs, but like at some point, it's really heavy to be responsible for people. I take that very seriously, that I'm helping people pay their rent and pay for their child's schooling or medical stuff. Like, I take that very, very seriously. And at a certain point, it felt too heavy. And that's when, again, we just had to make the shift to by myself. And it was scary because I'm used to everybody else doing stuff. And not that I didn't do things, but I hadn't been a solopreneur since early 2019. So the world was very different then, and now the world is what it is. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not worried about my capabilities, but just, I don't even know what business model I necessarily want to do, like, as a solopreneur, right? So I did end up going back to doing some VIP days myself, because that's what I love to do, and did that for a little while. And then I actually just kind of stumbled upon this like weird niche of like micro tools.
Okay.
And it's basically where I have a little Venn diagram as a systems person. So micro tools, what I see them as they're low competition. So like, I'm not going to build a ConvertKit. I'm not going to build, a big monstrosity of sorts that already is out there. Low customer support, because I don't like emails, and who does? So low competition, low customer support, and low complexity. So again, I'm not going to do a funnel building software or something. It's going to be something very niche and very specific. And so I did my first one called Add to List, and that one was like, if you do list swaps or free summits or things like that, instead of people sending folks to a landing page and there's a conversion drop off, we actually have it to where the link that you send in your email has the ability to auto subscribe people to your list. So 100% of people who click that link get added to your email list. Yeah. With some GDPR and like double opt-in suggestions. And so you're able to get more juice out the squeeze, right? And so that was our first one, and it's been fun to see people using that and getting results. And then I've done 4 or 5 more micro tools since then.
Cool.
But it's great because I am a solopreneur, but I do have developers that I work with just on Upwork. And so they do all of the development. I have the ideation and do some of the design. But that way it's like, I can do what I do, which is market and sell. And then, low customer support. Like add to list, I've had 6 emails since February of 2024.
And how do you monetize this? You like sell a subscription?
You could.
Yeah.
But I do lifetime deals because my people love lifetime deals. And so they usually are priced like $197, $297 in beta.
Yeah.
And then once they're live, then I sell them for like $497 lifetime.
Wow.
Depending on what they are. But
so is this what you see yourself doing? Like, I'm just so curious because we actually were just talking about this earlier about the pivot, right? Because I was saying how I wanted to interview Laura about pivots. We never got to pivot. So we're getting to pivots with you. But it sounds like you had like all these iterations of your business, which I think is so healthy.
Yeah, it's part of it.
Yeah.
A lot of people get shamed for it. I'm like, please.
Yeah. I mean, what I think is cool is that you get to sell to the same people over and over again. Mm-hmm. Like you've built like this audience base of these people who it's not like all of a sudden you're selling pet food.
Well, yes. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. I'm not going that.
I mean, if that's.
I suppose. But,
Yeah. Okay. So that's interesting. So have you found for you, have you been able to leverage your existing community for this?
Yeah, totally. Cool. So my betas have done really well. And so that helps. And it usually costs me between like $2,000 and $3,000 to build.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the green immediately.
Wow.
Like once I put it on beta.
Yeah.
Which is great. So then the plan is that once they're all built and out, then I'm just going to take them on tour and go to different communities. And because I can tailor this tool to a bunch of different people. And so again, relationships, community. Who else has communities that could use my tool? They could be an affiliate. Again, they get usually 40%.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty healthy margins. It makes it worth it for them because I don't know how it got lost in the circle, but all of a sudden, like affiliate deals are like $4, and I'm like, I'm not going to do anything for $4.
Yes.
Like, no offense, but just
no, I know. I got hit up for something recently, and they were like, it's only 4 cents for every person that you get in there, and I'm like, I can't even believe I read this email. That wasn't even worth my time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, let's put like the fun back in affiliate stuff that is like worth it for somebody to, because I think too, people are like, oh, of course people are going to want to share my stuff. And I'm like, you're competing against their own offers, which they know that they can make money from. You're competing against other affiliate offers that they know that they've either made money previously or whatever the case is, or you're competing against just them taking a break or them being with family. So you have to make affiliate stuff juicy for people. People are not just going to stop what they're doing and like experiment with your offers as well. Where again, people are like, oh, I haven't sold it yet, but like, I want to send it to your people. And I'm like, I like can't do that.
Thanks so much for listening to Community with me, Kristina Bartold, and I'm just so excited to continue the conversations. If you're looking to grow your community and learn more about social, join us at thesocialbusinessclub.ca and use the code podcast to get your first month for $1. Share this episode with your friends and on social, or leave a review. It means the world.